Good morning and welcome to today's Moss Adams webcast, The Power of Recognition, Building an Engaged Workforce. Before we begin, I'm going to play a brief housekeeping video. Welcome and thanks for joining us. Moss Adams webcasts are designed to help elevate your business performance. Transform your future for the better with advisory solutions tailored to your vision and supported by our collective technical resources. Our presentation will start in a few moments. Before we begin, here are a few things to keep in mind. You can customize how you both view our presentation and interact with the presenter. For better viewing, close all other applications and turn up your speaker volume. You can also adjust window size and placement or enter full screen mode using the controls at the top of the window or dragging the bottom right-hand corner to resize. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a series of icons, each relating to a different aspect of our session. You can download the group attendance sheet and a PDF copy of today's slides from the slide deck and handouts widget. You can ask our presenter questions during the webcast by typing a question in the Q&A window and clicking Submit. We'll do our best to answer all questions during the presentation or follow up via email. If you experience technical difficulty during today's presentation, refresh your browser by hitting the F5 key. Today's session will offer you 1 CPE credit. To receive credit, you must meet the requirements as specified by the National Association of State Boards of Accountancy. You must attend at least 50 minutes of the session and respond to at least 75% or 3 of the 4 polling questions, which we'll ask throughout today's presentation. Polling questions will appear within the slide window. To participate in the polls, please click on your answer and be sure to hit the Submit button to record your response. We'll track your progress and alert you when you've earned CPE credit. You can then click the certificate icon in the CPE Progress widget and download your CPE certificate. Don't worry, if you can't download your CPE certificate today, we'll email a copy to you in 2 weeks. If you're attending this webcast in a group, you must complete our group CPE attendance sheet to receive credit. The attendance sheet is available in our slide deck and handouts widget. Please have all group members sign it and send only 1 sheet per group. Also note that CPE credit only can be awarded to participants registered as themselves and isn't available for participants who view the on-demand version. As a reminder, the presentation you're about to see is not legal, investment, or accounting advice. We encourage you to seek the counsel of a professional service provider to apply this content to your specific circumstances. And before we get started, I wanted to acknowledge our recent news that Moss Adams is joining forces with Baker Tilly to create a new firm, one designed to serve the needs of the middle market. It's really exciting, and you can read more about it on our website via the link posted in the slide deck and handouts widget to the right of the slide view. And with that, I will turn it over to Brett to get us started.
Well, thanks, Emily. And I am extremely excited to be here today. You know, it's always fun. It's like back in elementary school when you get to bring in a guest speaker. So Tanya, you are the guest speaker from my 2nd grade. Just kidding. But I'm Brett Addis. I'm a director at Moss Adams. I lead our human capital practice. I've been in HR way too many years to even mention, but I'm really excited about this topic, and I'm even more excited, as I mentioned, to have Tanya joining us from ITA. Tanya, you want to give a quick intro, and then I know we have some fun facts that we're going to share.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brett, and I hope I can live up to being your elementary school guest. Hello, everyone. I'm Tanya Fish, and I'm a leader on our Employee Solutions team at ITA Group. Our Employee Solutions is really all about engaging employees in the work environment to make work better for folks. Our mission at ITA Group, where I work, is really to create engaging experiences for people and to help them to live a better life through work, through experiences that we bring. Part of that will be on topic with what we're talking about today, which is recognition and rewards. I've been doing this for about 10 years, but have grown up working with HR folks in improving work through health and well-being and culture in all of my, we'll just say 20 plus years.
Hey, Tanya, I should have said career day. That's probably more appropriate. the outline. It doesn't matter. We won't.
Yeah, it's okay, Brett.
Yeah.
I'll be your
All
mom
right,
too.
all right.
It's okay.
Awesome. So I actually have a confession to make, if you will. As part of this session, and Tanya actually prompted me to think about this, which is, how does employee recognition really fit into my daily role? And in the chat, if you guys are interested, we'd love to hear what you're doing to recognize your team or how people are recognizing you. But as I look back, we as consultants, we do a lot of project-based work, right? And so we very often are working with multiple clients at any given time on multiple areas. And I think one of the most valuable pieces for me is being able to use recognition, whether that's points recognition or just feedback recognition publicly, to share how great job people are doing on the team. I think not only does it, I think, benefit them, but it also benefits others to help build their brand and set expectations. So really love this topic. I'm excited about it. I know engagement is a huge issue right now. But with you, Tanya, how do you use or receive recognition?
Yeah, thanks, Brett. I think about recognition in two different ways, and I like to kind of clarify. First is appreciation, and that's actually what I'm going to hit on as part of my favorite part of this. Appreciation is really showing people that you value them, different from, some versions of a definition of recognition, which might be celebrating impact and outcomes that come from the work that you offer, the value that you're bringing. I love appreciation. So maybe it's because I'm a sucker for the underdog, but the top salespeople and the top performers are the ones that often are getting recognized, or the people that are client facing or, on the screen for the companies. What I appreciate and love about recognition, or maybe appreciation as the specific word, is getting to those people in the second layer, the ones that make everyone else look really good. I have so many people that help me show up strong every day, and I love to show them appreciation for the value I feel in the support they provide.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, if anyone wants to enter, feel free to I can't talk this morning, to enter it in the chat. We'd love to hear, again, what you're doing and from a recognition perspective and how value add it is for you or your organization. But with that said, and feel free to type, we've got a couple, we're using it to our, oh, that's awesome, core values. Joyce Carter said that. Before I dive in, though, I just wanted to recognize something. It was a very interesting observation. The team sent me over the registration list this morning. And so whether you are on my time, East Coast, or the West Coast, we have a breadth of registrants across all industries, and really almost, well, I shouldn't say every state, but really across the country. And I think this just shows how important and impactful this topic is. So if you don't mind, Tanya, let's dive in, because I know that's what they're waiting on.
Have some fun, Brett.
Awesome, let's do it. And Michael says, I tell people are appreciated regularly. Yep, that's awesome. And I think that's going to be a major message as we talk about these topics today. Well, so let's dive into this. So I think it's probably goes without saying that we are a record low engagement in the North America, and we'll dive into something in that in just a few minutes. But this is it's becoming a major issue, right? I will say that a lot of people, from my opinion, and just so you guys know, I don't go word for word, so we do a lot of ad-libbing here, but you'll get the slides. A lot of people blame COVID as a key driver behind disengagement. And the reality is, if you look at any of the trends, the Gallups, the Gartners, et cetera, disengagement's actually been going on for a number of years. It's on a bit of a decline. And there's a number of reasons for that, right? And we can go into the 5 generations of the work and how each generation has different wants and needs and whether they're being fulfilled or they're not. But the reality is, this isn't a new topic, right? This is something that has, again, continuously progressed in a downward spiral for many years. And what I find interesting, and Tanya, I'm going to put you on the spot, is it doesn't seem like it's that difficult of a challenge to fix. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's costs and changes and all of these things. I see a lot more talking about it than a lot more doing about it. Let me just say that. So I just be interested in your thoughts.
Yeah, Brett, I think, what we hear a lot is people are looking honestly for that silver bullet. Like, how am I going to change my employee engagement? And you hit on it. Like, this has been a challenge for us forever. We are seeing a decline right now that we haven't seen for a little while on employee engagement. But what's hard, I think, is that there's not a silver bullet. It's not one thing that engages employees. It's truly creating a culture where every day people feel valued, they feel connected, they feel like they are part of companies' decisions, they feel a part of something bigger than themselves. It's not one thing, and it's not any one tangible thing. It's a collective of things. And it takes time, effort, and energy from not just one person, but a company of leaders to really change the paradigm.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I would say that as there are a lot of finger pointing in terms of the blame, I do think it is a consolidation of a lot. But in my opinion, one of the biggest challenges, and I know people are going to, if I was on stage, they'd throw something at me. It comes down to culture and leadership. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, not that there's never groundswells, right? And I definitely think there's pockets of that. But I think it really comes down to organizations really listening and creating the right strategic plans to solve some of these problems. And again, whether that's healthcare, whether that's manufacturing, whether that's telecommunications, it's become an issue over and over again. So I know I'm supposed to read these session objectives for you all, but they were in the invite. You're going to learn a bunch of stuff today. I'm just going to call it out like that. And you can read these when you get to the slide, but we'll talk about disengagement, enhancing employee satisfaction, all of these other things. But I think we'd like to get deeper into some of the meat of what we're going to talk about. So with, as you heard, this is a CPE level course. So one of the first questions we had for you, which is a brain buster question, which is, why did you decide to attend this session? Is it because it's a fascinating topic? You're getting prepared for a change or expectations in your workforce? You really are interested in our point of view, or you're just here for the CPEs? So we're going to take about 10, 15 seconds to let you answer those, and then I'll flip it over. And feel free to be honest. If you're just here for the CPEs, you won't hurt our feelings, I promise. Maybe a little bit, but not too much.
We'll still make it fun.
Yeah, we'll still make it fun. Absolutely.
And you'll learn something, right?
Yeah, it's already fun, Tanya. All right, 66%, 71%. We'll give yourself 5 more seconds. All right, and the results are, we do have a couple people here for the CPEs, and we won't hold that against you, but 37% are actually preparing to go through some workforce change and expectation. And I and Tanya, I want you to jump in as well, but I do think that's a big driver in this, is people have a hard time adopting change, and the level of uncertainty in terms of what the change are, or those new expectations, creates a lot of friction and disengagement. So I don't know what you're seeing.
Yeah, I would add to that, Brett, to say, there's some recent research I saw. I can't remember the exact source, but I can certainly find it for us, where companies that are going through change value and need employee recognition and culture more than any other organization. And people, in fact, crave it. Why? I mean, to me, it really comes down to, when things are changing, you're uncertain about what you should do at work. Like, you're trying new things, you're testing new things, it's uncomfortable. And people are looking for validation. Like, am I on the right track? I think I'm putting good effort in, I think I'm adding value, but am I? And I like to look back at a quote that Oprah once said. She's like, you know, it doesn't matter who's been on my stage, from Michelle Obama to some superstar singer.
Mhm.
Every single one of them, when they walk off stage, says, how'd I do? Because
Yeah.
we all want to add value. We all have intent to show up, but sometimes we don't know if we are. We're looking for that confirmation.
I completely, especially during change, I think there's a lot of
Mhm.
reinforcement and feedback that needs to take place. You know, again, whether that's I'm switching roles completely, whether that's I am being promoted, whether that's I'm taking on new responsibilities. You know, to me, you know, this rewards recognition is a direct alignment with performance, continuous performance feedback, right? Which
Mhm.
most people automatically think of as performance as negative, but it's not. It's your opportunity to really share input and guidance and awareness of how people are doing. I have to tell you though, Tanya, I am very disappointed that only 17.2% people really wanted our viewpoint on
Brett,
this
it's just
matter.
one other thing trumped it. I'm sure that was part of it. They could just pick
I
one,
know,
right?
I know. Well, I hope by the end of this that number will be 100%. But anyways, we'll keep going. So let's talk a little bit about the current state. You know, I think these numbers are maybe not surprising to some, but again, as I mentioned in kind of the kickoff, you know, we're not seeing a lot of major shifts to this in the positive sense. You know, I'm not saying that people aren't doing positive things and we're not making progress, but if you look at this overall statistics, and this is back in 2020, 2024, you know, only 30% of the workers are feeling engaged. So what does that tell us? That 70% of our workforce is disengaged. Now, what's interesting about this study is this actually broke down varying roles. So it looked at executives, it looked at leadership, it looked at people managers, it looked at just your traditional independent contributors. That what I have found is very interesting is that most individual contributors engagement level, although is low, has stayed fairly stable over the last couple of years. What's very interesting is the disengagement level from the executive and leadership team. We have seen an interesting spike in terms of their overall level of engagement. And I will tell you a couple reasons for that. And then Tanya, I want your opinion as this. But very often, you know, there's multiple types of feedback, right? You have the 360 feedback, which is your traditional bottom or top down. You have your lateral feedback, and you have your bottom up. And I think very often executives and leaders want feedback, but they're not getting it directly. And so when we look at uncertain economic times and companies are in flux, you know, are they really getting rewarded and recognized? And I mean rewarded in terms of just feedback and recognizing feedback in terms of the great job that they're doing. And I think very often there is a perception that they don't need feedback. Oh, they got to this job for a reason. But the reality is that's not the case. And I think that we're also seeing, especially a shift in performance management about different goals and KPIs, which again are more tangible than or I'd say quantitative than qualitative. So we're not getting that direct qualitative feedback about how you're performing. And then I think the other big piece of this is what I said initially. I think there's a line where employees don't feel comfortable on providing feedback up. And to me, you know, as a leader, I want to know from my people what I can and do, what I can and can't do to improve, or what I've done well. So I know we went off on a tangent on that and one employee engagement, Tanya, but I'd be interested in what you all are finding as well.
Yeah, I think, you know, you hit on a lot of things, Brett, but I think everybody craves feedback. And, you know, sometimes if you think about your stat on managers, I think especially middle managers are stuck often and they maybe don't feel their voice is heard in the way that they hope, but they have to facilitate and champion some of the change that we talked about that's happening.
Yep.
So in some respects, they're stuck in the middle of, trying to do the right thing and support the organization, but also support the people, even if they're challenged with some of the changes themselves. So bringing that full circle, those middle managers specifically, like, they're in a tough spot. They do, I think, really need that recognition of, like, I appreciate you putting your foot out for the organization and bringing your people on board for the change that we're all facing, because all of us are facing change every single day.
We are. And I, the other thing I feel that, and I'm a very pro engagement survey person, but I also feel that surveying employees and not listening can create some challenges as well. And I think a lot of that, to your point, if I'm a middle manager, it bumps up, say, I gave this feedback, why don't I see anything happening? And then middle management to senior leadership, hey, people have given us feedback, why aren't we listening or doing anything? And I think that creates some disconnection as well. But I know, listen, we have like 40 minutes and we got to hammer through a bunch of stuff. But so I'm just going to touch on a couple of these because I think they're very interesting as you compare these to your own organization. And the next one is 4 out of 10 employees are either neutral or dissatisfied with their jobs. Another major trend. And I think a lot of this has to do with historically, I think people felt a little bit more open to doing new things, cross-training into new roles. And as much, again, as I think organizations are trying to do that, I don't think it's happening. And I think a lot of that is due to talent shortage and talent skills. So it's not a blame on anyone. It's just the reality. The other interesting piece was about the employees feeling restricted in their ability to make decisions. A lot more conversations around micromanagement. And I will say I'm a big technology guy, but even the looking at technology as a monitoring device in terms of keystrokes and accesses and all of these other things has really put a bit of a damper on the restriction element. And then we talked about the feedback, right? I mean, 90%, 96% of employees want more feedback. Oh, we got some people chiming in. Sally said, and I hope you don't mind me calling out your name. So Sally, if you do, just say, Brett, don't call out my name. Seems a bit of disconnect if only 30% are engaged, but 60% are satisfied. Well, remember, there is a big difference in satisfaction and disconnection or disengagement. Disengagement could be, I love my job, but I hate my boss. Right? Or I love what I do, but they're asking me to do new things. Or I love my job, but we're short on talent and I'm overwhelmed. So there's a lot of things that go into job satisfaction versus disengagement. We have a lot of questions here.
Can I add to that too, Brett?
Yeah. What's that?
I would just say a lot of times satisfaction too comes from basic needs being met. So, if you're paid well and you have maybe hours that you like, you stay at a job for that. But that doesn't mean you're engaged. That means that you're going to stick it out. But you might be disengaged. In fact, you might not be bringing your best. So it's really getting above those basic needs and getting to, do people feel connected? Do they feel they have a voice? Do they feel their voice is heard, and are they using it to, change the direction of where the company is going?
I will say, though, to your point, Sally, their dissatisfaction will contribute to disengagement, right? But usually it's, to your point, right? They are a couple different things. We're seeing a ton of questions. We will get to them, I promise. And I don't want to slide where you all to death, but we do have a couple good points in here. So basically, what is employee rewards and recognition? And I'm not going to go through all of the slides, but basically, it's a form of acknowledgement, right? And I think one of the biggest things that we see is that those organizations who actually provide some type of rewards and recognition, and there's forms out there, there's ways that you can do it through email and Teams, and there's tools that you can do it, which we'll talk about here shortly. Let's not just look at it as the method. Let's look at it as the overall approach of you doing it or not. right? And I think the big piece of here is whether, there's monetary recognition, which could be points that correlate into dollars or a company store. It's non-monetary, where it's just verbal feedback that's shared. I think all of them are extremely valuable. And part of this, I think, Tanya, you mentioned this earlier on, right? All of us, every one of us, you can argue with me on the phone if you want, but every one of us want to understand, to your point, if we're doing a good job or not, and provide us feedback in terms of what we could do better. I think it's just part of human nature. So I'm going to skip over a couple of these. Anything, Tanya, that you wanted to mention?
No, I think I just call attention to, Brett, the importance of both non-monetary and monetary, really for the basis of often leaders are the ones that are left with budgets to recognize people or to give top performers awards. But as leaders can't see everything that's happening around the organization. So bringing that like groundswell of appreciation up is how leaders can start to see the outliers and where people are making a difference in the organization. So it's the information that a leader needs to know who to award and recognize often, while also keeping people engaged by showing that they're valued from people around them they're working with. So just it's really important to have both that non-monetary and that peer-to-peer pulse of recognition or appreciation, as well as the monetary celebratory for achievement.
I agree. And I think in many instances, peer-to-peer is, and not saying it's not great to hear from your CEO how fabulous you are, but I do think it's almost more important to hear from your peers, because they're the ones who are working with you on a day-to-day basis and really providing that insight, because it does create collaboration and trust and value and all of the other words that help, adjectives, I should say, that could describe that. But let's jump into the next pulse. So does your organization have a formal rewards and recognition program? And then I don't know why there's a backslash there, but we shouldn't be there. Yes, we do. No, we don't. Setting it up now, and not a program for us. So we've already got, I think 59% have responded. I'll give you another 5 seconds, because I know you are diligently
Speaking of
listening.
engagement.
Yeah, I know. So
Nice
they're like
job,
proactively engaged.
Right?
We should have done our own engagement survey. All right, 67, 3%. All right, let's jump over here. Oh, yes, we do. Awesome. So 41% have it. No, we don't. Setting it up now, and not a program for us. So I would actually challenge the 7.3%. I think it's great that you have it. No, we don't. And I would say the no, you don't as well. And again, don't think of this as I have to have a system, right? A system is a great enabler of this. It's a great method to communicate. And I'm not knocking systems. We use, Moss Adams uses a system, ITA, we'll talk about systems in a minute, but think about how it drives engagement, performance, contribution, culture, all of those things. It is good to see 41% have this, though.
Sure is.
All right. So value of rewards and recognition. I'm going to hit on some of these really quick, because I do want to give Tanya an opportunity to share some of the really cool and innovative things that we're doing. And of course, definitely want to make sure that we can open it up to the questions. But I would just say, if you look at the statistic on the right, I think it's really tells the entire story. And that's companies with strong recognition programs experience a 31% lower voluntary turnover rate. And who wouldn't want that these days? And a 92% employee engagement rate. I mean, these are fairly staggering numbers if you were to take this and compare it back to what your current voluntary turnover rate and your last employee engagement score. I mean, we're seeing turnover rates extremely high, and I know they shift based on the level of industry. A lot of it is based on what we had already talked about. It could be leadership trust. It could be manager. I like my manager. I don't. It could be whether you're fulfilling your talent needs. It could be a number of different things. But again, if you think about the correlation between engagement and turnover, it's massive. Those who are engaged are less likely to leave. I mean, that's just a fact. So what's your thoughts, Tanya, on this?
Yeah, it's such an important metric because we see consistently in literally every program that we offer where new employees and all employees, but a good measure of this more specifically even is new employees. So are your new employees being recognized? If they are within their first 30 days, their rate of retention is quite a lot higher than if they are not recognized. And then when you extend that over the life cycle of employee, it only becomes more important that they're regularly feeling valued again and being celebrated when they are aligned with impact and outcomes being realized by the organization. So spot on, very, very good outcome metrics to track and measure when you have a rewards and recognition program, and to compare people recognized to people not recognized.
Exactly. And Barbara, and well, again, Barbara, I hope you don't mind me calling your name. So, she basically asked, are the statistics affected by the size of the company or public versus private companies? I think it's a really good question. I'll be frank and say I didn't necessarily dive into public versus private versus size. I was really looking at average. And so I'm sure there are probably some variables that can shift these a bit. But I think on average, we're probably going to see a lot of similarities. Again, for me, it's not about the size of the company. It's not about whether you're private or public or even not-for-profit for that matter. I think it's really, do you have the right infrastructure of sharing feedback and rewarding and recognizing others? Disengagement is disengagement. And I don't think and I work with companies across, and I know Tanya does as well, whether you're not-profit, public, private, the engagement level is extremely high in all of them. Mm-hmm. I'm just hitting some of these questions, got to get to them. Allison, does Moss Adams have templates? Yep, we can definitely provide some sample surveys, and I know ITA can as well. We talked about the disconnect from Sally. And then let me just jump on this one real quick, then we'll move on. Adrena said, after a performance review, would you recommend an employee to provide the response about their perspective on how the review went and inquire about the basis management arrived at their decision? That is a very good question. I'm just gonna speak to that. And I don't want to get off on a tangent, so we may have to pick this one afterwards. My response is yes. I feel that performance reviews is directly tied to engagement. It also, to me, is a form of rewards and recognition, right? You're either compensating people on their performance, you're providing feedback and transparency in terms of how they're doing. And to be completely frank with you, my point of view is your employees should know how they're doing well before a performance review, so this shouldn't be a surprise for them. But if there is an employee who wants more detail on the results of their performance review, whether that's feedback or a rating, I absolutely think they're entitled to have that conversation to learn more. I mean, I would want to understand how I'd want to perform better, and if I'm not meeting your expectations, then I'd want to know if it's new skills or capabilities or whatnots to do that. So just jump a couple of questions. So Tanya, what about you? Any thoughts?
No, I totally agree with you, Brett. I think it's really important that employees have the opportunity to provide their voice and to respond to feedback being provided to them. The discussion is so critical. If they don't feel heard, and especially if they don't feel the feedback is fair and they don't have a chance to voice it, you definitely risk losing that person, whether they are rising talent or developing talent. It's important to hear them out.
Yep, completely agree. We've touched on this entire slide already. The only thing I am going to just highlight really quickly is some of these stats, because everyone likes statistics. I mean, let's just be honest. The people are writing them down and they're going to go back and talk to someone. But what's interesting, employees who are recognized monthly are 36% more likely to report being productive and engaged, and 22% more likely to be highly committed to their roles. Again, it's about the ongoing feedback, the recognition, the kudos for doing the good job, really is impactful when we look at overall performance, trust, and all of these other things. All right, so for you CPE fans, Tanya, then I'm going to turn it back to you. What is your main driver for having and considering a rewards and recognition program? So while they're answering, Tanya, I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I was just going to add and answer Christine's question about supervisors and managers being trained. I thought it related a little bit to the last topic in terms of getting regular recognition. Yes, the answer is yes. Supervisors and managers being trained on not only what the program is and how they should be using it, but on the expectation of them in using a recognition and rewards program is really important. My example I would give is we've had a program we've operated where, you know, we communicated, and this goes a little bit, Michael, to your question. We communicated, we educated on the program, and we set everybody off and got them registered to use it. And, you know, engagement was so-so. People were utilizing it at a moderate rate, let's say. But we had our own expectation in terms of utilization, and it was managers should be recognizing one person every month. But we didn't say that. So nobody knew the expectation. As soon as we made clear the expectation of managers to be out and to recognize at least once a month somebody that makes a difference in the workplace, ideally way more often, but at least once a month, and to do their best to reach each of their direct reports to show appreciation for something they've done on a regular basis, we saw things change dramatically. People needed to understand what good looked like and what the expectation was. So
yeah,
hopefully that helps you.
If I can add on to that too, Tanya, I think one is leading by example. I mean, executives need to do it. You alluded to that, Tanya. I would say the second thing is don't overestimate people's ability to give positive or negative feedback. Let's just be honest. Sometimes people aren't comfortable doing it. In fact, I would say, there's a leadership development session that I did last year. And one of the big concepts is, we often promote people who are really good at the tasks, not because they're good at people management. And so don't overestimate people's ability to be people. And so there's times for training. And then Michael, I would just add really quickly before we jump to the poll is, to me, it's about reinforcement. It's, you can't cascade an email or communicate. And I think you said you were doing some of that repetitively, but to me, it almost has to be a mandate and a goal in many instances to get organizations to shift and get people to take accountability for doing this. All right, so let's jump to the poll. Oh, create a culture of competitive, nice, 10.7. So people want to create a little difference in their organization compared to others. Increase employee, well, that's obvious. And I would say for me, it's all, right? It's all the above, right? We want, I think if you were able to increase employee engagement, all of the other ones would start to follow. So
yeah,
awesome. All right, I'm going to touch on these three things with Tanya really quick, where there's deep dives, and then I'm going to hand it over to her because she's got some very compelling and dazzling information. So what are three trends that organizations can do to really start, I'm going to call it redesigning some of the way they think about rewards and recognition? The first one Tanya talked about very earlier on, which is personalized and flexible rewards. So what this basically means is that it's not one size fits all, right? Maybe it's different work schedules, work-life balance. Executives want certain things. Supervisors want something things. Employees want something different. The 5 generations of the workforce want something different. And it's just really great in theory. But the challenge is the expectation is that you don't end up with 100 programs. So it's really about prioritizing down what those common denominators are. And really allowing people to feel like what you're giving them and what you're doing for them and how you're doing it is meaningful and valuable to them. That's my point of view on that. I'll go through these three and then I'll let you talk.
Well, I was just going to add, Brett, I think you answered Stephanie's question spot on. That would be my response to your question, Stephanie, is that PTO might be valued as a reward for some, but for others, it might not. So providing choice, to Brett's point of his trend, is spot on for how to make it as meaningful as possible, because everyone is different and at different stages of their life.
Yeah, completely agree. The next is the integration of recognition daily workflow, and I think this touches on Mike's and was it Stephanie's as well? It was one of them. Sorry, thanks. Oh, Christy. This again, recognition needs to be part of your culture. It needs to be part of the life. I mentioned leading by example. I mean, this is something that just needs to be ingrained in people's behaviors. In consulting, we do a lot of 360 surveys after projects or communication. And it's very natural for us to say, hey, this is what you did well. This is areas that you have opportunity for. Hey, here's things you may want to stop doing. Hopefully that's few and far between. But it becomes natural, right? Because we are really try to focus on delivering an amazing customer experience and solving our client problems. But this has to be an ingrained activity. Even to the point where you'll very often see us kind of recognizing our clients for things that they're doing, right? Because it's just becoming ingrained as part of our culture in terms of feedback. Tanya, any thoughts from you?
Oh, so many. What I like to say about this one is creating a habit. Recognition is a habit that you want to develop, just like eating healthy food or drinking water or exercising. And if it's part of the daily workflow, if it's embedded with the tools you have, if it's at people's fingertips, if there's reminders on your calendar to do it, the habit is created, and it's more natural to do it each and every day and to create that habit and reinforce that habit ongoing. That is key to success with making it part of your culture, is creating the habit and having the reminders to reinforce.
I like the habit. I'm thinking of a T-shirt, habit, and we'll come up with something on the back. That'll be our next one.
Can't wait to see it.
I know. We'll come up with something. And then the last one, we talked about this earlier, right? It's emphasis on inclusivity and peer-to-peer recognition. Peer-to-peer recognition is extremely important. I talked about this earlier. It builds trust. It supports collaboration. It helps with innovation. It brings people together. And I think it's also being very specific, and making sure that people clearly understand what they are doing very well, how they're being rewarded. I also think that, as I mentioned earlier, the social aspect of recognition, whether it's in a team meeting, a town hall, a recognition platform, really makes a big difference. Because honestly, for most people, when they see their name plastered up on their recognition board, it makes them feel good, right? It makes them feel like they accomplished something and that other people are very appreciative for the work that they're doing. Tanya, any thoughts?
Yeah, if I can just add, I think it's really important to have peer-to-peer and even to have a means of getting customer feedback, because so many employees are the face of your company, but they may not work with other peers all the time. They might work more with customers or patients or clients. And those who can see the interactions that they're having with those really important stakeholders are your source of feedback. They're the source of recognition or acknowledgement, so that managers know what's going on, right? So that peer-to-peer, that pulse of what's happening is just really important to maintain.
Tanya, I'm laughing at Jacqueline's question. How do you keep employees engaged during an ERP implementation? Change management is how you keep them engaged. All joking aside, I think it's a lot of communication, a lot of expectation setting. ERP projects, as we all know, don't always go smoothly. I'm not saying they go bad, but there's ebbs and flows of how things go, right? And I think it's about setting the expectations. If it's a timing difference, if people aren't meeting up to their expectations, I think it's extremely critical. And then I also do think it's about being able to recognize those quick wins. I think that's one of the biggest small things companies miss is you have spent months and months and months building out a platform to achieve these certain outcomes that you committed to based on a certain dollar amount that you received to implement this thing, and people are just waiting to hear it. You need to continue to share this, even from day one. Is it a policy? Is it a policy? Have you made a policy more efficient? Have you made a process more effective? Have you been able to save costs by doing X, Y, and Z? You're gaining so much value throughout the ERP implementation. I think people get disengaged because they don't understand the value that they're actually adding. And everyone's waiting to this big sunshine and rainbow at the end of this ERP, which in reality nowadays goes on forever because there is no end to implementation. So we forget about that. So I think it's a big piece about just ongoing change management and communication. I'm going to touch on William's question, and then Joyce, we will get to yours. So William, how do you keep things fair if they are personalized rewards? So when I said you look at the different stakeholders or 5 generations, it's not necessarily about giving each of them their own rewards and recognition. Everyone will be eligible for the same ones, right? It's just by listening to what they say and offering certain things, it makes it seem to them more personalized because that's what they want. But I will say that there are certain circumstances, potentially by role, that different rewards and recognitions, like hybrid working or remote working or things like that, could be differentiated, but that needs to be validated, justified based on the overall work. And then Joyce will get to you in just a second. I promise. All right, I'm skipping. Last poll, and then Tanya is going to wrap it up. Tanya, I feel like we've taken a lot of time on this stuff. It's been very good dialogue so far.
It's great. Yeah, it's all good.
So what is your 2025 HR workforce and talent focus? AI, workforce augmentation, skills-based hiring, redefining leadership, employee experience, sustainability and ESG alignment, none of these, or all of these? I'm interested. What do you think it's going to be, Tanya? AI?
I don't know. I kind of think it might be a toss-up between leadership. AI is a tough one. Everyone's talking about it, Brett. I don't know. Do we put that up at the top?
You know what? If you really want to drive better employee engagement through rewards and recognition, I'm thinking experience myself. But then I saw leadership and then skills and capabilities. They all go hand in hand.
Maybe we're going to get in all of these.
I know. Let's see. I'll give it 2 more seconds. Everyone's clicking opposite. All right. All right. There we go. So 15 is AI, 26 is skills and hiring, which makes perfect sense. That'll be a topic for another day. Redefining leadership. You can go back and listen to that one. Employee experience, 32%. Fantastic. And then 2.5 is sustainability, and then none of the above. And then there's a number of people put team building and other pieces in here. So awesome. And we will get to those comments. So Tanya, I'm going to turn it over to you. Do you need me to click for you?
I'm going to have you yeah, why don't you keep clicking, Brett? How's that?
Okay. All right.
All right. So let's talk about what can you look for or gain through rewards and recognition technology. And I think a couple of the recent comments I'm going to tackle through this in terms of how do you keep things fair and how do you get variety of awards. So I'll get to those. They're top of mind, but I'm going to dig in and say 3 things that are really important when you think about employee engagement that can be gained through technology is making sure you're hearing employees. So doing pulse surveys to give them a chance to tell you how they're feeling, especially during change, as well as deploying an employee recognition tool so people can show that appreciation for others around them when they see value in what they're offering. I'm going to build on recognition even further and say it's really important to make sure that you are recognizing those people that are driving impact in your organization above and beyond appreciation. So making sure that you design your programs so you're targeting people who are driving the impact, but creating and showing value to everybody for their contribution is key. And then last is team connection. So giving recognition and being a part of a community is so important. You know, when we talk about the basic needs, right above pay and good health as a basic need is feeling connected to others. You can create connection to others by seeking out those that you think are doing good work or making your day better, but also in hearing from other people. And a technology tool can enable those things. So going to the next slide, what might this look like? A simple platform can bring socialization of good work all into one place. And the key here is celebrating all of the really good things happening in a workplace each and every day, because so much of it goes unseen unless we are bringing attention to it. And if the good is being celebrated, you create a culture of positivity. You create a culture of celebration and a culture of recognition. So what you're seeing here is a consolidation of all of that appreciation, all of that recognition, and communication of different things happening in one hub. So this goes back a little bit, Michael, to your comment. You know, we can communicate a lot, and we all try, I think, our darndest to communicate, but we have to hear things at least 7 times, I think is the stat, for it to sink in. And sometimes that doesn't even work because it's not relevant to us in that moment. But when we need something, we expect that it is there for us to find. And this can also be a way to have that information available when people want to find it, when it's relevant to them, on how to engage, how to earn rewards, and to see how others are being recognized. So maybe they can modify their behavior to become a stronger contributor to the workplace. On the next slide, you will see that we are looking at employee feedback. So if you're building that culture of recognition and people are using a tool and they're looking to see the good happening in the organization every day, the platform can also be the source of pulse surveys. So you can source information from folks to understand, how are they feeling? Are they feeling connected? Are they feeling supported by their leaders? Are they feeling psychologically safe at work? Because all of those things, having a voice, feeling recognized, feeling connected, creates trust with leaders, with organizations. And when there's trust, you're going to have a much stronger culture of authenticity where people are serving the clients, which is what we're all getting paid to do by having a job, right? The next page, we'll talk about the third piece, which is connection. And this is a way to really show people, again, kind of going back to Michael's comment about how do you create options for people, communicate, but also create that culture. It's having different programs, different opportunities for people to engage and having them very visible. So you're seeing on this image a lot of different tiles for different awards available, different programs where you can be recognized, different ways that you can earn. And it just kind of builds that reinforcement of, we value you employees. Here are all the different ways that we do show value to you, to build that value prop up for the organization, but also to create awareness of what's important to the organization and what behaviors we as employees of the organization should be engaging in to be a high achiever and to continue to grow with the organization.
Am I supposed to switch?
Yeah, please switch. Thank you.
Right.
This is kind of building on the last slide in having a platform to promote events and activities. So, you know, when we all work disparately in different locations, it's easy to feel disconnected to others in the organization. But one way that you can make an organization that's really large and disparate feel smaller is to create ways for people to connect no matter where they work, and to have people with common interests being able to engage with each other, again, no matter where they work. And then also socializing what's happening across different locations by specific topics, by specific work groups in meaningful ways. So this one hub for recognition and rewards can really kind of connect people into all of the things available and all of the different groups of people that they might be able or want to be connected with in different ways. It's just a really unique way to, again, bring people from different places together. In this platform, something I don't necessarily have a screenshot on, but I'm going to address as one of our questions. When you create different awards, different opportunities for people to earn, one way that you can create options for meaningful awards for people is to have your program based on earning points. So instead of just gifting PTO to everybody, or instead of giving everybody a t-shirt, what you can do is have people earn points as they're being recognized. And as those points are pooled together for different recognition, maybe it's also for wellness, maybe it's also for sales or service incentives, those points pool together and give people the opportunity to go shop in a catalog for a meaningful award that maybe they wouldn't purchase on their own. Maybe for some new earbuds, if that's something that they aspire for, or new luggage if they like to travel, or maybe a new TV because that's what they like to do when they're off of work and just kind of settle back down. But it also could be experiences, tickets to a show, plane tickets to go travel with their family if that's what's meaningful to them. So points can be a nice currency within a program like this to give people ways to earn different things that are meaningful to them through choice. So I think I tackled maybe a couple questions through that response. Going to the next slide, Brett. This goes to that consolidation story of when you have all of your different earning opportunities for recognition and rewards in one place, it really makes it easy for folks to see what's important to you as the organization and how they can earn. And when you reward through points, like I just mentioned, across all of these different types of programs, people can earn meaningful awards, and that's really key. And I'm going to skim this one quick because one more slide in 3 minutes. How's that? Because I want to get to questions, Brett.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready. So how do you do this? How do you set a program up like this well? It's going to be the speed dating version of this. One, make sure you know why you're creating the program. Have clear objectives, and don't be afraid of having different programs for different objectives. So again, clarity in why you're doing it and what each program is for is key. Within each program, be clear about what behaviors are important and create recognition opportunities for each of those defined behaviors that you believe will lead to organizational success through that program. Then think about what are the gains, the carrots, or the consequences from engaging or not engaging in the behaviors. And think about, is it something you want to reward at an individual level, or is it something that you want to recognize and reward on a team basis to create connection and collaboration? That all goes back to what's your objective, and making sure that you're rewarding and recognizing based on what you're trying to gain for an impact outcome. Then you determine your program types behind that, and you work with budget. The easy, simple way to think about budget is starting with 1% of payroll. That's kind of the industry standard. We often say at ITA Group, start with 0.5% of payroll because programs always evolve and grow, and you want to have room to do that. But know that working up to 1% of payroll is best practice, and that's where you start to see the biggest impact and the biggest outcomes from a strategic recognition effort. Of that percentage of payroll, 80 to 90% should be going towards rewards into the hands of your employees. And only 10 to 20% should be in the management of the program and the technology and the people power to run it. Really, a lot of that budget goes back into the hands of the people as rewards. So to wrap it up, What questions, Brett, have you scanned that we have not answered yet?
So we do have a question about creating culture of recognition without a platform.
Yes.
And I actually, I think Tanya did a really good job of walking through the overall approach. The outcome of what her approach is a platform in which you can manage all of these things. But whether it's a feedback box that people drop a note in, whether that's developing people to have one-on-one conversations, whether that's recognizing people, as I mentioned, in town halls or other formats. I would start if you are, I don't want to call it technology averse, but if your organization isn't ready for that, start small. Just get people talking to each other, and whether you want to add on a point-based system or some hats or T-shirts or buttons or pens or whatever, that's really up to you. I think most people, those are nice to haves. They'd much rather have these back.
Yep, totally agree, Brett. Building the habits first before the technology can be a great way to build that foundation and grow. And then when you need to scale it, that's where technology becomes really important and connect people from different locations where physical recognition or physical feedback cards, in your example, maybe they don't work any longer when you're in a bunch of different locations. So it's a scaling solution.
And we are out of time, I think. So I do want to be sensitive that we're not just cut off. So Emily, can you validate that for me?
Yes, we are out of time. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Go ahead. You go ahead, Brett.
No, I was just going to say there's several questions in here that unfortunately we didn't get to. So Tanya and I will regroup and we will directly respond to each one of you. If your contact information is in there, and if you'd like to have further conversation, you're more than welcome. If you want to take our responses and run, you're more than welcome to do that as well. Back to you, Emily.
All right. Thank you. You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say we ran out of time for questions, but we'll be happy to follow up with you after the webcast. Thank you, Brett and Tanya, so much for a great presentation today. As a reminder, if you attended today's presentation in a group and would like to receive CPE credit, you must complete the group attendance sheet found in the slide deck and handouts window. If you participated as an individual and met all certification requirements, your certificate is available to download now in the CPE progress window. I'll keep the webcast console open for a few minutes to give you time to download your CPE certificate. And a copy will be emailed within 3 weeks should you have any difficulty downloading it now. Here's a link to an online survey where you can provide feedback for today's presentation. Please take a moment to complete this survey as your feedback is very important to us. Please also visit mossadams.com for future webcasts and other resources to help you elevate your performance. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll join us again next time.
Thank you all. Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you, Brett. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.